Carl here. This is part of my series, How to Know If You're Really in Love. I'm going to be posting videos here where I talk about love, increasingly more and more, instead of writing on the allexperts.com website where I usually talk about love. I'm going to answer people's questions without actually using their names, but they will know which talks are for whom. Somebody wrote to me recently and asked if I thought that she was still in love with her boyfriend. Because, as she said, she doesn't get the same feeling that another friend gets when around her boyfriend. I'd like to talk about that. And I'd like to talk about what love is and what love isn't in relation to that. So let's go step by step. When our friends say to us, "Hey, you could do better," it might be true. But let me posit to you that love is not like buying a car. Love is a process. And if you already love someone and that someone loves you, you can only go higher if you're doing love right, so to speak. Doing love right means working on love. I often tell my clients that love is not just a feeling. I wasn't the first one to say that. It was probably Dr. Fromm. And you've probably heard it in movies. Or you've heard Dr. Leo Buscaglia talk that way. And it's true, love is a practice. So sometimes you're not going to feel as wonderful in love as you do other times. Does that mean that you should start shopping around? Of course not. If you truly have love with someone, then you should just look at the days that aren't so entertaining as regular days. And this brings me to my next point. Love is not entertainment, though love can be entertaining. I don't really believe there's a purpose so much in life as there is meaning in life that we assign to it. But I will say something that sounds like I believe that there is a purpose to love because it's just easier to say it that way. Love is not in your life as a toy. Love is not a book, a magazine on the coffee table, or a movie. Love is a process, an entity actually, that grows between you and someone else, which is necessary for your growth as a human being. It begins with loving yourself, which comes from the love and freedom your parents gave you to do so, which entails being able to do what you want and explore what you want, and finally to love who you want. And when you find that person who understands you and wants to understand you better, who is challenged by you and must challenge you at times to be better, you grow with that person. Growth always involves pain, so that means that your relationship is not always going to be like that first great night or a night at a cocktail party or even the honeymoon. What I'm trying to say is, like someone once said about invention, I think it was Edison, love is 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration. Now, I'm not going to say that love has to be hard, but love will be hard if it's true love, because all people are different, no matter how much the same they may find themselves to be. So in love, they're going to clash. The people who just wipe their hands of the relationship and they walk away and they say it didn't work, usually are just not able to admit that they didn't make it work. People who have been together 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years especially, above 2 years, 3, 4, and 5, unless they were in a dysfunctional relationship or they were lying to one another and using one another, they were in the relationship because they matched. And that's the next point I want to make. When people say, "Oh, we didn't match," there's no such thing as a match. There are similar hearts, souls, and minds who come together and decide to have a relationship, and then they work on it. Usually when people say we didn't match, it probably means they just didn't want to try anymore. Some people are in love relationships without loving. They didn't realize that in the beginning they were just looking for a little sex or a little distraction. Love is about committing yourself to one person. That's what love is. It's about dedication to yourself and that person. And above all, it's about communication. Because as my good friend Bob Diefendorf once said, A relationship is a conversation, and I add to that a physical, emotional, and spiritual one. People will say to somebody, "Oh, you're young and you look good and you could have somebody else." You could say that forever and you could become a floozy. People write to me and say, "Oh, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, we get along so well. We hardly ever fight. We understand each other. We give each other space. We listen to one another. The love making is great. We like each other's friends, and we like each other's families. But should I move on because I'm young?" This is just a product of the throwaway culture. Of course you could do that, and then you could go mess around with someone else. Then you could realize the worth of the person you left. Then you could come back, and now what do you have? You have kind of a sorry mess, right? Now, I'm not saying that people should stay together when they really don't get along. But really not getting along usually starts with not getting along just a little bit. The problem is, once again, communication. If you're sharing honestly with the person that you're in a love relationship with, there really can be no trouble if that person is healthy and dedicated to you. So, I would say that if you want to know whether you love someone or not, you can ask me. But the best thing to do is to sit down calmly, relax and meditate, and try to think of your life without that person. Then think about what that person really means in your life, if you haven't come to those conclusions already while imagining the person is gone. Don't you think about that person when there's a sunrise or a sunset, when light is shining on water in a beautiful way out in the woods, whether it's an ocean or a river or a lake? Don't you think about that person when you're scared? Don't you think about that person when you see something good that you want to share, or when you've learned something that you want this person to know? Don't you think about that person when you feel amorous? You think about that person when you first wake in the morning and when you go to sleep at night. If all of these things are true, you love that person. Finally, if none of this was convincing and you still feel like you want to mix it up a bit and you want to get out there, tell the person that you love. Don't do anything behind his or her back. This is the first transgression in love. And to me, it's the mortal sin of love. Love is based on complete and total honesty. The minute you're hiding something from the one you love, you're asking for trouble. If you can't be honest with this person, then you have a problem personally, or you have a problem with this person. Finally, if you want to know if you're really in love with someone else, just spend some time with that person. And when you realize that there are things that bother you, talk about them, but always talk about them at the right time. If you can manage, don't talk to that person after you've consumed anything that affects your metabolism, like alcohol, drugs, cigarettes. And certainly don't do it if you don't have enough time. And I often recommend to people that they have these important discussions out in the open somewhere, in a park or on the beach. When we're at home, we often fall into habits, comfort zones, and we might get upset. And who knows? On a really bad day with enough pressure in your life, maybe you didn't eat the right things or you drank too much coffee, you might end up being violent. Always be loving. Always be patient. Always be honest with yourself and with your partner. I hope this helps. Peace, love, and joy.